morning. Good morning, Tara. Good morning, Mr. Krista. I got Jackie here. Oh, look, we got Dr. Son. Oh, I got a girl crush, Dr. Son. I got a girl crush, Dr.
Oh,
Son.
the coffee. Take the
I
coffee.
I just voted for you, Dr. Son. I just voted you for on that thing. So you guys, if
I,
grab
I,
that link, be voting for Dr. Son. He's the number one chiropractor in the whole entire universe. Um, okay,
Nice,
so
love
I
it.
want to dive in today because I know a lot of people are struggling. It just feels like the world could be craving in here. I just have to say, if Patricia's here, I know what she's going to say to me. My smoke alarm is going crazy, beeping. I have all four smoke alarms beeping. So I'm going to just address it right now that when you hear beeping, it is me. And I drive her crazy on every single Zoom call with my beeping. So Patricia, if you're here, I am beeping again today.
It's been 9 months. I'm sending a technician. It's an emergency.
Is that what it's been? Is that what it's been, Amelia? That little beeping in every Zoom?
Every
Oh my God.
It's the alarm. You need to change the battery.
On the planet.
It's horrible.
the battery might be out.
Yeah, it's an alarm. You've got to replace the battery for sure.
The batteries are out, and so I came down here this morning to my office, and this one down here now is going out of town. Like this one's the loudest because it's on the bottom. So it goes up 4 layers, right? I'm on the very, very bottom, the depths of hell is where I'm at, and it is going nuts. And I'm like, maybe I just cut the wires because I'm gonna drive.
Yeah.
Crazy this morning.
That's
Oh my goodness. Anyway.
That's
I digress with the Amelia. The things on my list that I actually don't pay attention to is smoke alarm, which is probably I'm going to get a letter from some fire department. But anyway, besides that point, so with the intensity that's happening right now, and we're definitely seeing it. I don't care who you are, you're starting to feel another layer of tension, which is coming from the uncertainty and the nuttiness of our media. And so, as you know, my area of expertise is in behavior. And so, what I really want people to consider to think about this morning is if maybe the end goal is misaligned, right? So often, as mentors, one of the things that we do so quickly for other people is realize that what they're pushing towards is incorrect. Now, stay with me for a second because I realize everybody who's listening right now is like, I know exactly what I want. Maybe you don't. So hang on. I want to talk about the difference between happiness and joy, right? They are used interchangeably. They are not even remotely the same thing. And from a very neuroscience standpoint, right, what's happening in the brain when you feel happy versus feeling joy could not be any farther apart chemically, right? So I want to start there. But before I dive into the actual substance of this, on stage, just flash your mic if you feel maybe you don't actually know the difference between happiness and joy. Is there anybody who might be a little bit confused between these two words? Couple people. Okay, here we go. All right. So we, in our society, right, because we are, we're a business society for the most part. We have an enormous amount of media and things in our food that set us up mentally for addiction, right? We are pleasure hunters. We seek pleasure. We literally chase after it. And part of the reason why we chase after it is we're looking for dopamine hits. Now, that has even psychologically gotten even more nutty as social media has gotten part of like this is just like part. It's like another human to us, right? Social media, and for young people, we have enough data now to know that their relationships, their digital relationships, vibrate within their brain exactly the same as if it was a human being, right? So, not if you're over 40, but if you're under 40, it has been such a part of your world, you're actually responding to your technology as if it was alive. and we won't derail on the craziness to that point. But what I'm trying to say is that there is a reason why when you Google something, there is a pause before it brings you up the information. It's creating a dopamine hit. There's a reason why everything about our relationship with technology isn't that the technology can't move faster. Of course it can. It is allowing the human to get its addiction to the dopamine hit, right? And so that is when you are chasing pleasure, little boosts of pleasure. That means if you go another layer down, you're chasing happiness, right? We're conditioned now that, and you actually hear people say, I want to be happy. Do you? Do you really? Because if you want to be happy, if you're looking for those things, happiness is temporary. And happiness is external, which means you as the human are relying on something outside of self to give you that hit of happiness, which basically means you're creating yourself to be an addict. Versus the next, go the opposite side. So instead of looking at dopamine, taking a look at the other side of it, where it's serotonin, which is a link to joy. But let's go even farther to say, what should I be aligning with? Since we know happiness, no so good. Joy, a little bit better, but yet still not perfect. What is the ideal situation? Peace. Peace. When you align yourself with peace and start to understand how you inwardly, right, stabilize yourself for peace within self, and then use that frequency that you have learned literally consistently over time to stay in peace, you are a better beacon to be able to then bounce off other frequencies to see if that other frequency is peace or chaos. And this is what many, many, many of those who are of more of a spiritual shaman thinkers strive for peace. They remove negativity. They remove inconsistency, mixed messages, chaos, all that stuff. They remove themselves from that because the number one point of destination is peace. Okay, so now I'm dying to know what you guys think. Oh,
Well,
don't
Amelia, what I wanted to do, like, we didn't properly set this room, so I just want to make sure that.
You mean you would have said this?
Yeah, because this is such a pivotal conversation. Because you're right. The difference between joy and happiness, people think it's the same thing. It really isn't, right? Because, like you said, happiness is contingent upon an action, a person, or whatever it is. Well, we create our own happiness, right? It's something that we can create. Yet ultimately, people do want that joy. So that's what we're talking about this morning. We're talking about the joy versus happiness. So what we encourage everyone to do, and of course, this is the Designing Genius Hour. So thank you so much for joining us. If you're just joining us now, we are grateful for you to be here. What we'd love to have you do, though, is, and by the way, of course, Amelia Antonetti, and I am Tony Rodriguez, your sidekick here on this Genius Hour. And of course, we invite you.
Smoke alarm in the background.
Yes, the smoke alarm in the background.
Our guest setting smoke alarm.
Yes, and you know what? We also have another guest, which is my house alarm, which is also beeping occasionally as well. But it is the battery, by the way. It is a battery. So that's what we are talking about, joy versus happiness. And of course, we invite you all to share this room. And for those who don't know, we are also streaming live. We're talking right now specifically to Clubhouse, but we're not actually, because we're talking to everyone out in the social media world. We are streaming live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. just look up Amelia Antonetti on any of those platforms. You can watch the video live. You can also look me up, look up Tony Rodriguez with an S, or you can just hashtag Get Up and Grow, and you'll be able to find that. So you can also watch and follow us and see the expressions, and just to listen to Amelia is one thing, but to listen as you're seeing her expressions and how she reacts to everything is a whole nother world. So make sure that you're sharing this room, not just here by hitting that little box on the bottom with the arrow, so that you're sharing this room on Clubhouse. So those of you who those who follow you on Clubhouse can follow you right into this room. You can also ping people in individually. And of course, on social media, you can just share the link. You can share the YouTube link. You can share on Facebook, LinkedIn, and of course, comment on there because we can see your comments. We can also respond and interact with you on social media. So you're not limited to just being on Clubhouse. Thank you again for being here. And again, it's going to be a great hour because there's so much. We can probably go for 2 or 3 hours on this topic. So with that said.
So please, in the comments, let me be
Yes.
your behaviorist. In the comments, if you have a question, there is no dumb question. If you are confused of how would I know if I was feeling happiness? How would I know if I was feeling joy? What is the difference? How do I, all of that. If you ask me the question, I can immediately right now lean in to you with the answer behaviorally. Remember, you have to disconnect from your old thoughts, and then I have to give you the way to disconnect from your old thinking, a behavior modification tool to attach you to a new behavior, and then give you the practice to glue it in place over the next 28 days. And the reason why I say 28 is because it takes 20 days, 21 days of repetition, but then you're tested. You're always tested right around the 3-week mark to see which thought train you're going to commit to. Most people choose the old pattern. That's why they fall off the wagon right around the 21st day. If you can get through the first test and choose the new behavior, you will then actually level up your energy and start your reset, right, as you move into day 28. Most people cannot get, that's why they fall out. Usually it's like week 1, yay, got it. Week 2, oops, temptation, and oops, they're gone by week 3, right? We see this year over year with the amount of gym memberships and people working out and all that other stuff. It increases every January, it increases again in March before we go into spring. This is behavior because it is very hard to change your behavior. That is why we pull together as behaviorists, as business owners, as all of our different areas of expertise, and we created Designing Genius for you because it can hold you through each of the things that you have to understand first in your mind, right? If you don't understand, you cannot change. That's the brain is seeking information for understanding. If you don't understand something, even though you try to willpower your way through it, you will revert back. Willpower does not create sticky. And one of the fundamental things that I see that people make the mistake, and then they teach the mistake to their children, and then they teach the mistake to their teammates, and they teach that mistake in their relationship, is seeking happiness. Their moment. And then they're like, I don't know why I'm not happy. Well, because it's only going to last a nanosecond. It's quicker than Chinese food. You're hungry again, right? And you're looking for the next dopamine hit. So if you are saying to yourself in your head, I want to be happy, you have to grab this thinking right now that you're setting the wrong destination. Remember, you become what you think. And if you think you want to be happy, and trust me, I'm sure all your parents told you to be happy, you're seeking the wrong thing. And that might be part of the reason why you can't hit your goals, might feel a little depressed, might overindulge in things, right? Because you're seeking the next rush. And that shows up in sex, in sugar, in coffee, and I'm a guilty because everybody knows me. I'm a coffee girl, right? For moments of dopamine hit. And so putting in the practice to unhook your relationship relationship with happiness and start seeking a new relationship with peace. I will tell you, every single one of our community that went through Designing Genius, the awareness that comes as they attach to their true inner self, the 5 areas that really create focus and meaning for them. Not anybody's two, let's just call them blueprints, right? It's really your people operating system, how to operate
Yeah,
yourself with
blueprint.
people, right? That is your map while you're trying to rewire your relationship. If you're trying to have more of anything in your life, step one is to understand what you must release from. What do I have to disconnect from? Setting the room, right? Setting, when I mean room, I mean actually the room, the space for you to bring in a new belief system. And then from that, that's step two. Step three is what is the new behavior I'm going to bring forward. You must first release, create space, set with a new relationship, with a new thing that you don't, which is right now we're talking about releasing from happiness and choosing peace, from my humble suggestion to you people. And then start creating the habit that you're doing a check and balance going, do I feel peaceful? Right? I will tell you, you start this exercise, you'll start to be in conversations, you'll start to be with people, and you're like, I ain't feeling peace here, right? They're triggering my anxiety. I feel like I feel like I'm not good at, but all those triggers, that person is not peaceful with your current energy. So that means either A, you work on your energy, which is more successful than anything else out of self, or that person isn't aligned with who you want to become. And in most cases, this is why most people stay right where they are. The things that you have surrounded yourself with are not in alignment with who you really want to become. And that's an inner war, and you stay stuck there for 30 years fighting you. You're fighting you because you don't know what to do to break away from the less than toxic, not aligned energy that you've built your life from. But if you look at anything that scales, if you look at anything that grows, look at nature if you want to. Change. Everything in nature changes. It works in a cycle. Humans, we are designed for growth. If you're not growing, you actually are slowly dying and nobody's told you. You're dying. Let me help you by first saying, let's change the destination point. Stop saying happy. Stop telling people you want to be happy. Stop telling yourself you want to be happy because you're creating an addiction. Tell yourself, I want peace. I want to welcome peace. It's a wonderful thing to say to somebody, you know what? I'm not feeling peace when I'm with you, so I'm going to take a step away. I'm going to take a step away because this doesn't feel good. This is not what I'm going for. Okay.
Yes, love people from a distance. Love people from a distance. So important.
Amelia, I have a question for you. Actually, so there is a question actually in the chat, and so we all know that happiness is based from what's happening around us versus joy, what's happening within us. So that is fantastic. And Ed in the chat wants to know how to help a friend disconnect from an emotion from a resentful past event.
It's a great one. And for those of us that are sensitive, and I mean that in a good way, and for those of us who actually really care about people, there is nothing more heart-wrenching than watching somebody suffer. I can suffer, but man, I don't have the stomach to watch you suffer. I don't have it. I don't have it. And when we're witnessing with total clarity that somebody is absolutely going in the wrong direction or have attached themselves from something that is just not good for them, that is one of the toughest journeys in the world. And the struggle with that is you cannot change anything outside of yourself. So this is where you use very tender, right? This is where you can really lean into behaviorism to sit somebody down, sit, don't stand, never have meaningful conversations standing up. That's behavior 101. Do not stand ever having a meaningful conversation. I can give you a lot of reasons why that is, but just take that as a fact. Sit somebody down, make eye contact, touch them, shoulder, hand, wherever is appropriate between you and whoever this person is, and say, I love you. I love you. I love you unconditionally. And I see your pain. And I don't know what you would like me to do about it. Do you welcome or will you consider what I'm about to say? They must choose yes. They must choose your energy of insight. Most people are not ready to hear or see their own reflection. 99.9%. Actually, Patricia and I just wrote an article for this for LinkedIn. 99.9% of people are not ready for mentorship. They're not even ready for a coach, let alone a mentor, because they are married to what they believe. And so when you see somebody suffering, and let me tell you, people, I am guilty. I'm guilty of this. Guilty. When you see somebody suffering, in most cases, it's of their own choice. And they're choosing it because life without that pain, which they have interpreted as love, is so monstrous, they would stay with the devil that they know. It takes not only behaviorism, but a circle of influence to guide you through your toxic behavior within self to move you to where you need to be. And a meaningful conversation to say, I love you. I'm here with either decision. But me watching you suffer is breaking my heart. Will you be willing to just see or hear a different perspective? And if you're not ready, that's okay. But when you are ready, I'm going to be right here. You have to have the door opening in order for anything that you know, the knowledge exchange, to land. Be okay with the fact that most people do not know how to receive the gift that you are trying to deliver. And you have to make a decision is, can you love somebody in their bad decision? Can you? Because the biggest pain is the witness. The witness. That's why people who are suffering, right, and this goes into race, gender, anything that is an injustice, at the very core of the injustice, what people are asking for is a witness. Witness my truth. It doesn't mean that it has to be your truth. They're asking you to witness their truth. And that is a practice that has been removed from our society. We no longer know how to witness somebody else's truth without passing judgment and without being able to make it ours. We want people to believe what we believe. And we get into a pissing war, a tug of war, trying to get people over onto what I think and what I believe. It's not about that. It's never about that. It's about the ability to witness their truth. And then asking yourself, can you support their truth? And when somebody's choosing suffering, woo, donkey, that's a hard one to witness. A hard one to witness. That's why in tragedy, most of the time people go silent. And the reason why they go silent isn't because they don't love you. It isn't because they don't care. They don't know how to show up for you while you're suffering. I'm a perfect example. The children of my father committed suicide. People are crickets because they do not know what to say to me. They don't know what to do. So absence is where they default to. Now, I can sit here and go, nobody loves me, nobody cares. No, I accept people exactly where they are. They don't know what to do, and doing nothing is their default position. And that's okay. That's okay. But I, as a behaviorist, in front of you suffering because I'm okay with the fact that I'm suffering on my way to healing. And I can do that publicly and still face the criticism that comes my way because I'm not seeking happiness. I'm seeking peace with the decision that somebody else made. There was fearful.
Well, listen, if I can just add to that for a moment,
Sure.
the reality is this: is that pain is part of life. We all know that. Suffering, however, is a choice. And the reality is that whoever needs the help and that you'd like to help, you want to help, they need to be ready, willing, and able to accept that help, right? Because if they're not ready to change, you're not going to be able to change them. As a matter of fact, it's going to be tiring for you, and it's going to be upsetting to you, and perhaps even to them.
You create your own suffering.
Absolutely.
So if you dive in to help heal someone who's choosing to suffer, you now then suffer with them.
Absolutely, and it's hard. It's hard to do that.
Right.
Yeah, and people, listen, people don't really want to change because they're connected in Maslow's hierarchy of values. Is they're connected. Their significance is connected to their pain. Their strange sense of love is connected to that pain. They have that certainty that they can feel that. Now, I will say that.
So Ed's saying in the back chat, so witnessing the truth sounds like empathy. Yes, it is a portion of empathy.
Right.
Right. But you're really striving for the strength of peace. Right. To empathize, you feel what the other person is feeling.
But you've got to be careful.
Wrong with that.
Yeah, but you got to be careful because as an empath, you can take on too much. You've got to make sure that you're clearing yourself out as well. But I will say this to your friend: the path to the way out of that forest, the way out of the woods for her is ultimately, and she's got to be ready, or he or whoever it is has to be ready for this, is through forgiveness. Because again, suffering, pain is part of life. Suffering is a choice, and oftentimes people suffer the wounds of the past because they're not willing to let them go because it's become part of who they are. But you know what? The reality is that your past, whatever happened, it was a bruise. It's not a tattoo. So you can grow through that. But the way to grow through that, is through forgiveness, is through letting go of whatever that was, and reminding her, because every time you say that to somebody that's in pain, like, I don't want to forgive that person, they hurt me. No, it's about forgiveness is a gift you give to yourself, because that's the only way to happiness and to joy and to peace is through forgiveness. Otherwise, you continue to victimize yourself, because if that happened 5, 10, 15, a year ago, whatever it is, that is no longer there necessarily. So if it's not there, then you're the one that's victimizing yourself. It's time for you to let go, because by forgiving the action, that person, whatever it is, you can also forgive yourself and move on and leave that behind you. But it does, again, I love everything that Amilya said. It's about sitting down, looking them in the eye, and understanding who and where they are.
So Ed, I'm listening to you here in the back chat. So let me land another knowledge nugget. There's a huge difference between sympathy and empathy. If you have sympathy, you do not have understanding. If you have empathy, you empathize because you have understanding. Right? They're very, 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 very different. Right? Sympathy comes with a heaviness that you unintentionally push upon the other person. Most people do not want sympathy because it's heavy. It doesn't feel good. Even though we want it to feel good, it doesn't feel good because there's no understanding. right? That's why I like the word witness better than sympathy, because witness means I am here and I am validating your truth, which is really at the core of what people need. They need validation. They shouldn't need it, but they do. They need the validation to go, this is my truth. And to stand in neutrality, which means not to judge either way, is to say, I see you. I see you. I hear you. I believe that that is what's going on for you without judgment. Empathize brings in the emotion to say, not only am I a witness, I actually understand what you're saying. I have a similar, not the same, similar experience that I can connect to emotionally to empathize with what you're feeling, right? And so it's really important, since we've gotten our words confused, right? We use happiness and joy interchangeably. We use sympathy and empathy interchangeably. And in the confusing of not really understanding what these words mean, we send ourselves in the wrong direction, right? Because we don't really understand it. That's why meaningful conversation that could be seen as quote, quote, dangerous, right, is so important. I don't know who but somebody decided about a decade ago to get politically correct. When we decided to get politically correct, we lost the substance of our connection and our conversation, and all of these words have gotten confused. So now, a decade later, we're trying to learn what is happiness, what is joy, what is peace, what is empathy, what is sympathy, what do all these things actually mean? Because I'm okay with having very difficult, sticky conversation, and I'm okay if I trigger you to feel uncomfortable. My intention, my absolute deepest intention, is always to heal. I'm a healer, to heal unintended pain. I do nothing in my world to intentionally cause pain. Now, I know I'm a trigger for a lot of people. I know a lot of people don't like me because I trigger stuff in you that's on your side. Okay, I can take it. I can take it. Because I'm more committed to your healing than I am to you feeling good in the moment. My commitment is to get you where you need to be to heal, to get to your highest and best self. You can't get to your best self until you understand your own pain. Because pain is heavy and you cannot rise in heaviness. Impossible. And what happens with this pain, and I don't know if Dr. Shapiro is still here, is the pain gets stored in different parts of our body and becomes sickness and illness. And so a lot of people that are struggling with illness are actually struggling with trapped emotional pain. That's a whole other story.
Amelia, can I jump in as an old person?
Sure, you can jump in as an old person, a young person. You can be any kind of person you
I'm
want.
saying that intentionally. Everything I do is intentional.
Go
And
for it.
this is Jimmy. And everything you said is exactly right. I have a couple things to say. Mark Twain said, habit is habit. It cannot be flung out the window. It has to be coached down the stairs one step at a time. And it takes, you have to be intentional about that. And you are right. For a long time, I'm a very sensitive empath, and and also had some childhood trauma, which I want to make everybody happy. Everything should be nice. I've had to learn my lesson that I cannot change or fix someone unless they are intentional, and they have to know. They have to know that what they're doing. And if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't know you're purposefully living in that pain, you're not going to change. I had an experience on Clubhouse with a young girl, a Paralympian, who was going over and over and over the same story. So I got her number. I found out she actually lives not far from where I am. So I called her and had a long grandmotherly talk explaining all the things I could help her with. And she was all on board with this. And 15 minutes after I got off the call with her, she was back on Clubhouse and has been on saying the same exact thing. So she is obviously not ready to
And
get over.
and that's right. And so, again, it's acceptance of where people are. You just have to accept people for wherever they are and focus on your journey. You cannot change somebody else's journey. It's an inward job. I'd love to welcome Dr. Sapira to the stage because I know as a chiropractic, you definitely have a thoughts and feelings on scrap pain.
Well, let me reset the room before Sean jumps in, if that's okay. And to Jenny's point, you've got to divorce your story, your story, your BS story of your past. You got to divorce your past and marry your future, because otherwise you're stuck in your same story. So thank you very much, everyone that's here. Thank you for joining us. This, of course, is the Designing Genius Hour with your host, Amilya Antonetti. And of course, I am Tony Rodriguez. And we are here, of course, every Friday from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock in the Breakfast with Champions room. And we thank you for being here. And we encourage you to share this room because, my friends, by sharing this room, by bringing the right people into the right rooms to have the right conversations with the right people, you can indeed change the course, the trajectory of their life, their business, their relationships. And this is one of those rooms that you can come in, and every Friday we're here, not only from 9 to 10, but we're also here from 11 to 12, always with the special guest. And of course, then we also have Randy Jones. So make sure that you're here for that as well. Right now, we'd encourage you to share this room, whether you're on Clubhouse. You can just, of course, hit that little square on the bottom and ping people in individually. If you're watching us on YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn, you can also share that link and invite people into this conversation, because this is one of those conversations that can indeed change somebody's life. So with that said,
So I'd like to, yes, I want to welcome in Dr. Sean,
yeah.
and then I would really like to welcome in Dr. Haley, who's also on stage into this conversation, because I really think that there's somebody here who needs to hear it. So Dr. Sean, can you take over here and enter the dialogue? And then Dr. Haley, if you don't mind, I'll be coming to you right next, please.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for letting me speak during the hour. I think I learned my lesson when I was an intern. We used to cycle through these free clinics. They were called Harbor Lights in St. Louis, and it was recovering, mostly heroin addicts at the time, opioid addicts. The staff people would also get adjusted for free by the interns in the clinic. We had to get so many adjustments done before we could graduate. So long story, even longer, I guess. This one woman, the first time I was there, this one woman, she didn't speak very much English at all. She was Russian. She worked in the back office. She could read, I guess, but she didn't speak English, and she did some things that helped them out there. And she came down and got adjusted every week, I guess. And it was my turn, and the clinician, who knew I was kind of like a young Turk, like I wasn't afraid of any case or anything, put me with her, because I think everybody else was afraid to do what needed to be done. So again, sorry for the length of the story. She lies down on the table. Friend who translates is telling me what's bothering her and how long it's bothering her. Look at her chart. Look at the X-ray. There's nothing really wrong with her lower back, but she can't walk. She's 32 years old. She can barely walk. She without being like crooked. It's kind of a tragedy. So I looked at it and I said, no. I said, I think people have just been babying me. So I went in and I adjusted her back, and there was such a relief of sound that I really thought my career was over before it started, to be honest with you. But on top of that, the woman flipped over, started screaming at me in Russian, kicking, screaming, yelling, just completely freaking out. I've never seen anything like that in my entire life. And I said, the clinician kind of came in with like a what did I do type of look on his face, and he shuffled me out and then stayed in there and talked to the woman and everything like that. And 4 weeks later, I cycled through the same clinic, and the woman came down, and she looked a lot different. And I'm not saying I'm really good at what I wasn't really good at what I did then or anything like that. I was just willing to give her the truth at that point in the form of an adjustment. And her friend who did her translating for me explained to me that when she was 13 years old, her house had been, uh, she was victim of a home invasion. Both her parents were killed.
Oh
She
God.
he was kicked in the area that I adjusted, and and he when I released it, all those moments of terror, of watching what she had to watch, of feeling what she had to feel, and thinking she was next, but only getting that kick, and all that guilt that she had survived because the rest of the family had not, all came out at once. And what she had wanted to do when she was 13, but she was too scared to do, at 32, she decided to do it to beat the crap out of me.
Right. Right. Well, and the mind and the body are so connected. They're
Yeah.
so connected. When I'm teaching behavior, in most cases, I ask people to walk, right, to move your body while you're practicing the new behavior, because the body and the mind is so linked. We have an exercise inside designing things called the forgiveness walk. Because if you're looking to forgive self and you're doing it in a stationary position, it will land and imprint far deeper if you're in movement while you're forgiving self, right? I'd love to welcome Dr. Haley to the stage if you don't mind. I would love for you to join in this conversation.
Thank you so much. It's great to meet you, Amelia, and I'm happy to be here this morning. I absolutely love this conversation, and my work is in behavioral neuroscience, so I'm like right up your alley, and like everything you're saying, I'm like yes, yes, yes. But I'd like to actually take a little journey, like an evolutionary background on this, like why people do what they do, right? To really kind of give like this understanding of this is something that's so innate and so natural for us. If you think back, like caveman times, we are primed, our nervous system is primed to notice the negative things in our environment to keep us safe, right? So to make sure that we don't have a predator charging towards us or a fire or anything like that, we are primed to notice all the negative energy, the negative people, the negative stressors in our life to protect us. And so it's automatic. All these negative thoughts, these negative behaviors and emotions, and whether they're in your conscious or not, conscious awareness or not, that's what's automatic. But the beautiful thing about our nervous system, and particularly our brain, is that we can change it, we can mold it, and it's through neuroplasticity. And there's a lot of tricks and tips and things that you can do to help support neuroplasticity, but you do have to be intentional when you're trying to change some of these negative motivators, right? If you look at somebody who's stuck in this, really unhealthy relationship or marriage, maybe, and you look at them from an outsider and say, what are you doing with this guy or this woman? Like they're just, it's not good for you. It's not in alignment with who you are. And sometimes what's keeping that person there are really deep seated, evolutionarily imprinted motivators because it's safe, or at least their nervous system thinks it's safe because it's not, it's more predictable, basically. Even though it's negative, it's more
100%,
predictable.
but because it becomes our addiction. Right?
Exactly. Yep. But the thing is, we can change it, right? So as long as you have that intention and that motivation to say, you know what, I'm ready to make that change. And that's, getting back to what Ginny was talking about earlier, the person just wasn't ready for change. Right. But once you are and you have that intention and you can, through conscious awareness, say, okay, I'm going to change this, you can actually rewire your brain. And then that's when everything opens up. So it's a beautiful conversation. I'm so happy to be a part of it.
Oh no, listen, I'm so happy to hear. I mean, I probably say 1,000 times a day, you are not your habits and your behaviors. You are not. You were taught them, right? You built a relationship with them. You think what you think right now is your safe zone, right? But if you want to become something different, if you want to move, it starts in the head, right? Because you only are a product of what you think right now. If you're trying to move to your future self, then you must think something differently. You must behave some way differently to pull you into who you're becoming. But because we've been told the story that we are our habits and our behaviors, right? We unintentionally do that in childhood, right? That you are what you are. Especially, for me, I come from the, off the boat, the older generation, who was very rooted in this is who we are, this is who we are. And I'm like, what if I choose differently? You'll go to hell. I'm like, okay, scoot on over because that's where I'm going, right? I had to break away from the epigenetic part of it, right? The lineage of the habits and beliefs that were coming down through my family's history, right? So it's not just breaking away from self. If you are close to the boat, you also are breaking tradition, right? Traditions that go back generations. So even more so, you need a tight circle to help you go through what will be very unfamiliar, that is going to feel unsafe as you rewire, like what you're talking, what's going on in your head. Can you? Absolutely you can, but do not rely on just willpower. Don't rely on willpower. Most of the people that I end up working with, the reason why they're falling down and getting up is because they're relying only on self. They're relying on their willpower. That's impossible. You need tools, systems, circle. You need all of those things to get through creating that new behavior. That's why they say there's no solo in success. I publicly say every time I'm around, I am not a solo ship. Without my team, I'm nothing. I'm nothing. I am nothing, nothing, nothing. It is the circle that I surround myself that allows me to continue to become my best version. So my goal is to be better than yesterday. That's it. Am I better today than I was yesterday? If I am, keep on going. If I'm not, then it's reflection to go, what's going on? What's going on? Because it's not what's going on outside of me. It's what's going on inside of me. So, Dr. Haley, you are welcome here anywhere I am. You are wanted and you are welcome, because I think, especially being a woman in your field, I am so excited about that. I could scream.
Oh, me too. I'm so glad that we met.
anytime. Sure. I know we had somebody else who wanted to jump in. I can't. Where is he? I just saw his back chat. I can't find it now.
It might be me, Amilya.
Please come into the conversation. You're welcome.
I love it. Well, what's funny with what you're saying right here is seems counterintuitive, but it's actually.
Well, first announce yourself so people can see where your little circle is.
Jeremy.
Hi, I'm Jeremy.
I know Jeremy, but nobody else knows who's Jeremy.
It's okay. I'm guessing a lot of people have heard my voice, but hi, I'm Jeremy. Good to see everybody. It's counterintuitive. It makes sense. People can actually be much more comfortable and calm being angry because that's what their bodies are used to. So what you're saying is just so spot on, because it's like the little addictions that our body craves almost. It's like that cycle of understanding and that circle that we can go through. And it's so funny because it's like, oh, I'm angry, I'm this. And it's like, yeah, but and you have peace. If you have peace in your life, someone who is not used to that is going to be looking for that next brick to fall, or they're going to be looking for that in a relationship, or they're going to be looking for that in other people because they're not used to being around healthy people.
Right. And Jeremy, don't you find that when anger is your communication tool, you then attract other people who ignite your anger, right? You actually seek the trigger, right? Because then you have a reason why you're angry, right? So you seek those out and you create a vicious cycle, right? You create your own cycle that is exactly what you say you don't want.
And it's the same with victimhood and people not like saying that they're alone and they don't have love in their life. They're more used to saying that with the people. My clients that I work with, I won't let them get in a situation where I'm like, oh, I'm so excited to learn. I'm so excited this. And because if they say the same, so like, oh, I'm really excited because I'm learning. I'm this. I'm like, hey, don't get good at just learning, please. Don't get good at saying these sentences of I'm getting close or I'm doing this. You have to get to a certain point where you flip the switch and now you're on the other side, or it's not going to change. Right. You're 1,000% right. It's people that get really good at victimhood. Kind of what Jenny was talking about. I actually tried to mentor that same lady, and she was so good at repeating her own story. I'm like, I'm not wasting my time anymore. Like, because I know this, and you feel empathy. You feel the empathy for them, but you're just like, I can't do this because it's not going to change. And the last thing I want to say is what you said earlier too about having somebody there, because the questions that I've had to ask too, coming from a family where love was not a language, love was not. So I had to call my best friend the first time I had a girl that just really to someone caring for me and like wanting to do nice things for me and cook me dinner. I was like, I think it's that I don't feel like I deserve this or I don't feel like it's new to me. So I'm gonna hold myself accountable and I'm gonna tell you this stuff. And so just having
So that's
somebody.
just Jeremy, you and I are related. We have the same family, so we're related. And so yes, right? I mean, I think that that's what's so important. You know, there's a lot of people on Clubhouse that are addicted to Clubhouse and they're addicted to note taking. They take lots of notes and lots of notes and lots of notes to allow themselves to feel like they're accomplishing something. But those notes live in their binder, right? They never transfer the knowledge into the action because that's what scares the hell out of them, right? Action. How do I start? How do I take the first step? Right? And you become a note junkie. And you have to be able to change up what you have learned and move to the next phase, which is implementation. And knowing that as you implement, you're going to feel like you are sliding down a mountain. It's going to feel uncomfortable. It's going to feel foreign. It's going to trigger everything that you fear because your mind is trying to protect you to say, go back to what we know. Go back to what we know. So when people go into self-development, for some reason, they think it's going to be fun. They think it's going to be a great journey. They think, oh my God, this is awesome. I'm gonna, right? That there's some type of happiness that's inside of that. No, true learning, deep growth hurts. It hurts, and you have to work through it, right? That's why you need the stickiness in order to get to the other side while you practice the new behavior, which starts from releasing the old behavior. And the reason why releasing the old behavior is so hard is because now you question stuff. So just talk about what Jeremy's talking about. When you have a loveless childhood, when somebody comes to try to love on you, and you're like, what is this? What should I, because it triggers fear. Like, what the hell's going on here? And then you move to the conclusion that, oh my goodness, I've never felt love before. Well, what the hell's wrong with me that I never had it before? And you start questioning everything.
Wow, you're so right. Hey, this is Jenny. I want somebody to interview me because I am 84 and I listen to this, and you are so spot on. And another person on stage actually tried to mentor the same person I did. And I have a feeling many people reached out to her. Once again, she lives 45 minutes from me. I offered to Uber her over to where I live and sit down and talk to her. And not 15 minutes later, she was on. She's a perpetual victim, and she's enjoying the hell out.
Right, and so she's addicted to the energy,
yes.
right, of sympathy. Feel
yes.
bad for me, feel bad for me, and she'll keep telling her story to anybody who will listen, but her intention is not to heal.
Right.
And so what happens is it then pulls on other people's heartstrings, right? And all you do is feel horrible, right? You feel bad, Jeremy feels bad, everybody who reaches out to her feels bad because that's her addiction, right? As you feel bad, she has received the energy that you gave her, right? So instead of being addicted to alcohol or sugar, she's addicted to sucking the energy out of other good-hearted people. And it is a sad thing to watch. There's no judgment out of my mouth at all. I do not judge. I get it. I understand it. When you feel like you need that dopamine hit, you're addicted to whatever it is you've learned to fill it, right? So that's why I'm saying when people are so judgmental of alcoholics or drug addicts, I laugh. I'm like, you have your own addiction. Addiction is addiction. It doesn't matter what your vice is. It's unhealthy. You're addicted to something. We self-medicate. As a society, our marketing consumerism has created us to be addicts. And we're addicted. We're addicted to the social media. We're addicted to Google searching. We're addicted to likes. We're addicted to comments. We're addicted to sugar. We're addicted to caffeine. We are addictive. And so you must choose to put up the boundaries and the guidelines in order for you to be able to stay healthy. That's why, for myself, I have a social media timer, right? I don't rely on me having the willpower to stop scrolling. Hell no. I have a timer that goes, that's it. I allow an hour a day. That's it. And if you don't get your answers commented or whatever the heck that is, I'll be back tomorrow, right? Because I know I am compulsive by nature. I was raised in a compulsive. I'm Italian. Are you kidding me? I have it for generations deep. I have to have the tools to not rely on Amelia. Amelia will fail. The tool will always show up.
Yeah. So what?
Amil-
Yeah, I just to add to that is that person that we're talking about, and many people are addicted to their need for significance, and they get love and attention because their problem is so big and massive, is you can't change it. So they're addicted because they get that love from Ginny, from Jeremy, from whoever, because like, oh my God, I feel so bad. So that outpouring, even though it's cheap love, it really is kind of insignificant and it's not lasting. But it's like you said, it's that dopamine hit. You
Doesn't
get a
matter
hit
if
and
you're
it's gone.
hungry, you'll eat anything. If
Yeah.
you're hungry for attention, you'll take any attention.
100%, even if it's empty
attention.
calories. That's right. Listen, but before, and I know we're wrapping up, so we might have an opportunity for another comment or question. But I will say that it is 9:57, and I want to remind everyone to go to the link up on top. It's designinggenius.com. What you're hearing from Amelia here, and what you hear from every Friday, is in that book, along with exercises, along with so many great tools. Make sure that you're jumping on. Grab Designing Genius.
And if you go through Designing Genius, I will meet with you I'm on my way to Atlanta. I'm going to be in Dallas. I'm going to be in San Diego, and I'm going to be in Anaheim. So if you've gone through the course and then you want to bring your people map to me, right, which is your blueprint, I am happy to sit down and take it another step further. So please go through Designing Genius. I think
Yes.
Tara was jumping in.
Yes, and we'll go right to Tara, but I want to remind everyone, because we always forget to do this, I want to remind everyone that we are back here again in 1 hour. At 11 o'clock, we're here again. So make sure you're staying through with David Meltzer and Jake, and then stay through until 11 o'clock. We'll come back for 11 o'clock. It's going to be another fabulous hour. So with that, Tara, Mike to you.
Yeah, I was just going to say a couple things. One, you already touched upon. I've learned so many incredible tools, behavior modifications from that book. And so I wanted to say to Amelia, or ask Amelia, for the people that are listening to this incredible conversation and feel that they know they need to change, but they have that that feeling, that overwhelm right now because they know they're stuck. What is the simplest, easiest, maybe behavior modification that they can use and implement today, other than reading your book or following you around this clubhouse, that they can use to shift today? What would that be?
I think the fastest that you can do is take a look at yesterday's calendar. Look at everything that you did yesterday and actually be objective and say, is what you did with your time actually moving you to where you want to go? Because most people have an unhealthy relationship with time, money, and resources. The way you treat time is the way you treat money. And so if you just take a look at yesterday, don't give me all the excuses, well, the school called me and blah, blah. I know. That's what happened. But look at 24 hours and say, did I set myself up to move very focused, really intentionally towards my goal? And most people don't. They're all over the board. They're spraying and praying. There's no organization to it. There's no intention to it. You're not using your power hours. You're not using your protective hours. You really just don't have a relationship with the tactical along with the people planning needed to get where you need to go. And that's okay. Everybody has to learn. So stop holding yourself accountable that you don't know something. We all don't know something. We all don't know something. That's why we have mentors, right? Is we lean in other people, go, listen, I'm struggling in this area. I've tried all these things. Is there something that you know that I don't know? And you bring in that knowledge and you start applying it, right? And as I turn over the mic, Dave Meltzer is one of those people for me. I call him when I have beaten my head against the wall. I cannot figure it out. I'm frustrated. I'm pissed at myself. I can't figure it out. And I'm like, hey, Dave, this is what I'm struggling with. You got anything for me? And he's like, yeah, do this, do this, do this, do this. I'm like, thank you, sir. That's why he has 5-minute calls. He can fix it in 5 minutes. And then you're off on your way. But to honor your mentor, you must do the action. You need to circle back and go, hey, what you did changed my life, made it better, whatever. You have to communicate by taking action. That's what respect your mentor. And with that, I'm turning that over to Mr. Meltzer and Mr. Jake.
Love you, love you, love you, Amelia. And yes, remember everyone that our paths are relative, and what Amelia is talking about is the past has defining moments and inflection points, and it's relative to what we did